Hello, Chris, can you hear me all right?
I can and I can see you.
Perfect, excellent. Hello, people. Welcome to A-Level Drama, um, virtual open evening, afternoon thing. Um, I haven't got a presentation for you, but I thought I'd kind of be a more personal chat with you about the specification, about what we do at A-Level, and then give you a bit more time if you've got any questions about it. As Chris said, please do type questions in as I go along if there's anything you need more detail on, and Chris will interrupt me and I can make sure those questions. I also have a Q&A at the end as well if there's anything you want me to go back over. So drama at Ashbourne. Drama at Ashbourne is a subject that's very close to my heart, and a subject that we've been working on to reinvigorate over the last few years. And we've done some really good stuff in terms of building better grades and also widening our kind of scope of knowledge and performance quality, and doing extracurricular stuff as well. Now, obviously, at the moment, extracurricular stuff is on a bit of a pause, like much of the West End and theatres due to COVID. But there is huge amounts of extracurricular opportunities that Ashbourne allows us to do and to work with. And last year I started a theatre company, and we auditioned for a festival. Sadly, we didn't get in, but to audition was still quite an important aspect and a good step. We've also won competitions, which we'll go in for again. So I'll go through the kind of the A-level aspect of it, but I just want you to be aware that there is a broader and wider scope to drama at Ashbourne that you won't always kind of be aware of if you just look at the specification. But I'll kind of talk through that after I've been through the specification first. So the A-level specification is not too dissimilar to the GCSE specification. If any of you have done or are doing or have just finished parts, okay? First part is component one. Now, your component one is a written exam. For this written exam, you study 3 play texts that are contrasting. The first play text you will study, which is when you start in September in year 12, is Metamorphosis by Steven Berkoff, an adaptation of Franz Kafka's novella. Okay, so this is the first play text you will study. Now, what happens is you will study that practically in class, and you will make notes of your practical exploration and how you might direct certain parts of it, and you will prepare answers for questions that will come at the end of year 13. So all the work will start as practical with Metamorphosis, and then you'll build that into notes and turn that into answers for questions, which you will get ready and revise and work on as you develop through your 2 years to answer at the end of year 13. The second play text that you look at this way for your written exam, okay, where you do 3 play texts altogether, is a contrasting historical play text, or what we call a classical play text. You'll look at Hedda Gabler by Henrik Ibsen. Again, one of my favorite plays, much like Metamorphosis, is a really strong feminist play, looking at female oppression in the history, but also lots of modern themes to explore as well. With this play, you will study Hedda Gabler at the beginning of year 13, and you will follow the same process that we will do in Metamorphosis, where we will study the play practically and then get answers ready for scenes that you may have to answer in the exam for the end of year 13 exam, okay, the official A-level part written exam at the end. Okay, so these are your 2 play texts that you will need to know inside out. You'll study this one in year 12 and you study this one in year 13, and we do revision throughout. Okay, the third part of component 1, which is the written exam, is you study a live theatre production. Now, our exam board is AQA, and they state, if any of you do AQA, you'll know this, that you can see a recording of a live production as your live theatre evaluation. Okay, now the production has to have been recorded within the last 5 years, but you can choose any production. The last couple of years, and it may be the case that you do the same because it's still within the window, we've studied Things I Know to Be True by Frantic Assembly, a really popular play and a really good one to write about. Okay, this may change, especially at the moment. We're quite lucky in some aspects, some warped aspects, that there's a lot of theatre that's being shown on YouTube, on Drama Online, and on other digital platforms. So it may be that we look at a different play. It may be that we look at this play. That hasn't fully been decided yet. But you will literally do an evaluation question on Things I Know to Be True. That's the third part of your written exam. So at the end of year 13, for component 1, your written exam, you'll have questions on how you would act and direct Metamorphosis. You would have questions on how you would act and direct Hedda Gabler. And you'll have questions on your analysis of the quality of performance of Things I Know to Be True. So much of each of the year, a whole term in each of the years, will be focused on preparing for that written exam. As I said, all of the work, except for Things I Know to Be True, will have to be practically focused in order for you to understand the genre, the play style, the acting style, the characters' aims and intentions, the methodologies of practitioners that are connected with the plays. So there'll be a lot of practical work that needs to be done in order for us to gain a theoretical understanding. It's not, and I promise you, it's not just sitting in a room reading a play and discussing. Okay, it is you on your feet, learning lines, acting out scenes, and then analysing those scenes, as in, what are the intentions of the characters? What if they were this? What's the main intention? As a director, what intention would you like to put on? So everything is rooted in the practical, and the A-level is very much like that. It wants to root everything in practical. The second component, which is what you do from January to March in year 12, so you'll get a whole part of your A-level completed by the end of year 12, is the devising unit. Very simply, this is, you choose a stimulus from a gallery, an art gallery or a museum, and what happens is you and a group create a piece of theatre from scratch. I have no input in it at all. Okay, you create this piece of theatre from scratch. You choose the parts you play, the words you say, the style you do it in. The only thing you need to choose, and again, this is your choice, is a practitioner for you to base your performance qualities on. For example, last year I had 2 pieces. One piece was a piece about an adaptation of the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. The girl whose mother convinced her she was really ill, and the students used a practitioner of Brecht, so they used his techniques within their work. But again, they wrote all the script and they chose all the decisions in terms of performance qualities. The other group I had, they retold an old folk Swedish tale called Ursgång, which is called The Year Walk, and they basically told a really interesting new fairy tale, and they used the theatre style of knee-high. So they used their techniques such as puppetry, music, dance, acting, song, projection, different lighting states. So both pieces very contrasting, but both pieces students' own work. Okay, both performances were public, and the hope would be that by January or March, when you would actually do your practical performance, the world would have calmed down and there would be the ability to do public performances. If it isn't, that's nothing we can do. But the original aim is always to perform to a live audience, okay, of friends, family, and guests. Last year's performances for the Devise took place at LAMDA, which is a really prestigious drama school at Barons Court, Hammersmith Way. And we used one of the theatre spaces there. Really great theatre space to use. So that's component 2. The other part of component 2, and again, if you do the GCSE, it's not going to come as a surprise, is you present a piece of coursework to go along with your devised performance, okay? The percentage, of performance to coursework is 10% performance, 20% coursework. So although the performance mark isn't as much that goes towards the end A level as the coursework, nobody wants to do a rubbish performance. And the students spend hours and weekends and evenings making sure their performances are really high quality. And they are, okay? They really, really are high quality performances. So the coursework is divided into two parts. The first part is simply what research you did and how you come up with your idea. And the second part of the coursework is how you developed your ideas practically and what were the end results. Okay, and it's a 3,000 word written piece of coursework. Now you get drafts and attempts at this, so it's not just kind of one hand in like an exam. It's a piece of coursework that can be adapted and developed over time. But by the end of year 12, as I said, that whole unit, that whole component, which will be your device performance, and the coursework will be completed, which is fantastic. The final component, which is component 3, which will start at the end of year 12 and finish in the middle of year 13, is component 3. With this component, you study 3 different play texts, and they have to be really different in terms of genre, style, social, cultural, historical context, time periods. So this year, my current year 12s looked at Othello by William Shakespeare, and we will look at a classical Shakespearean text. At present, I'm going to keep it at Othello, but I may change it. And you will study one small extract of that play. And you will interpret and put an interpretation you want onto the characters, the scene, the story, and the message to the audience. Now, you don't perform this to a public, okay? But what you do is you show it to your classmates and you document the decisions you made and how the interpretation looked. Okay, this is for the component 3. You will then look at a second play in the Christmas term of year 13. My students next year are going to be looking at Sarah Kane's Blasted. Okay, the year before the students looked at Mark Ravenshill, Shopping and Fucking. So we look at a play that's called In Your Face. That's the genre, okay? A very kind of popular and kind of theatre-changing genre of the 90s. And what they will do is the same thing. They will choose an extract and they'll perform it in small groups or individually to the class with an interpretation that they've decided upon. And then they will make notes or a written document describing their interpretation. Okay, now the third play for component 3, because you'll study 3 plays, is yet to be decided. That play you will look at an extract of and you will perform it for a public audience and a visiting examiner. Okay, and they will come and watch your performance and grade you on your acting. You will still need to write an interpretation for this performance, and that goes with a piece of coursework with the other 2 interpretations. For component 3, the coursework is only 10%, the performance is 20%. So it's just the opposite of component 2. In component 2, your device and performance is 10%, your coursework is 20%. In component 3, your performance of a play text or an extract of a play text, your performance is 20% of the total A level, whereas your coursework is 10%. Okay, again, last year, my year 13 students performed extracts from the play The Nether by Jennifer Haley, and they performed at Lambda. These plays are performed at professional venues, and they are plays that are chosen by myself at present, but I do take ideas of students. For example, with The Nether, one of the students I taught in year 13, he went to Sylvia Young's, and one of the girls from Sylvia Young's, she was in the original West End version as a paid actress. She was one of the young girls in it, if you know the story. And so we were talking about it, and we had a discussion, and we thought it'd be a great idea to do. So it's not so much me telling you and directing you and being very kind of like dictatorial. It's very much a kind of inclusive process where you have to come with your ideas and how you want to play the scene from whatever play. I do try and get everybody to do the same play, so there's kind of a through narrative, which is better for an audience, but things can change, and I'm always open to different ideas. So that's component 3. So component 3 will be finished by March of year 13, which will be 2022 for you. Then the final kind of post-Easter term is all revision on the 3 plays that I've said. All revision on the 3 plays I've said. As I say, everything is rooted in practical, okay? Everything. We get into lessons, we do a 20-minute warm-up, which is vocal and physical, and a meaner warm-up. Once we've done that, we will read through the extract we're going to explore in the lesson, and then we really pick it apart. And one thing I've really developed, and the students have developed, is this: not saying I'm finished, but really exploring the ideas and really going through different ways we can interpret and look at characters, intentions, ideas, and thoughts. That's the specification. In terms of the extracurricular aspect, if you're not aware, there is something that we do called a review, which normally happens around Christmas time. As far as I'm aware, that will not happen for obvious reasons this Christmas, but it will hopefully happen in the Christmas of year 13. The review is an extracurricular, no grades involved evening where we literally showcase talent, quality, acting, singing, dancing, what have we had in the past? Stand-up, poetry. We've had musicians playing instrumentals. We've had singers with their own songs. And what you do is you audition for the review, and we have one night, and it's at Chelsea Town Hall, or it was last year, and it's just a real good end of year or end of term going into Christmas celebration of the extracurricular performing arts talents that our students have. Other things that the drama department does is, as I said, we enter into competitions. Last year, we tried to get into something called the NSDF, which is the National Student Drama Festival, with the theatre company that I created. Sadly, we didn't pass the audition, but really we were one of the youngest to audition. They normally send university students, and that was part of the feedback, was that they thought we might be a bit too young. That doesn't mean we won't audition again, and that doesn't mean that we won't try other things. 2 years ago, I entered a devising piece that students created into the Independent Schools Association, I'll get the name right, and drama competition. So that's all the independent schools throughout the whole country, okay? And we entered a piece for the secondary school aspect of it, because there's lots of different categories, and the device piece won best piece. Okay, so best performance, best show was their piece, which was a piece called 918 about the Jonestown massacre. So there's lots of opportunities for extracurricular, and I'm always looking out for extracurricular shows as well. And there's also lots of opportunities to win awards and perform externally, not just for exam purposes. The final thing I wanted to say, or the final 2 things really, before I open up to a Q&A, is we like to see, and again, it's a bit of a change at the moment, which is unfortunate, but we like to see a lot of school shows. Last year, I think we did 8. The year before, I think we did 10, which is a lot of theatre that we're seeing outside, a lot of professional theatre. That is one thing that Ashbourne offers that I haven't seen in many other colleges, schools, sixth forms, anything. It's a really good kind of ethos that Ashbourne has, letting our students see live theatre and understanding different styles. We will see a lot of what's known as off West End theatre, which is kind of your less commercial musicals, simply because that stuff will have a better support in getting ideas for devising and understanding the wider world of theatre. And for me, when I create the A-level, it's important that I create an A-level that gives you a taste of all styles, all genres, all different types of theatre that exist, not just the kind of the mainstream West End musical. We won't study any musicals, because this is obviously drama and theatre, but Ashbourne itself does do trips to musicals throughout the year, but not through the drama department. We do our own theatre trips just for drama students. The final thing I would say is the course is really tough. And I really don't want to put anyone off. I really don't. It's a lot of extra hours of rehearsals, okay? And it's a lot of weekends, especially when it comes to your devised. I love it. I really love this subject. And I would spend all day, every day for the, well, I am because I teach it, but I would easily spend all day, every day for the rest of my life doing and creating and being practical. And that's the kind of ethos I need from my students. You know, it's not, you do it a little bit, or I will turn up to 1 in 3 rehearsals. Okay, it is, and it can be, especially around performance time, quite intense. And I'm not saying that to put you off. I'm just being really honest. Drama and the performing arts is an area where we need dedication. And they're the type of students that survive and absolutely thrive. The year 13s that have just left, I've got 2 hopefully going off to Cambridge and Oxford. I've got a couple hopefully going off to audition for drama schools. And I've got other students that are going to university. So in terms of future prospects, there's a real broad range that my drama students move on to. And so it's definitely a subject, if you're passionate and dedicated to the arts and creativity and showing your ideas that you want to do. That's all I have in terms of how best succinctly to explain the course and drama in itself. Chris, shall we open up a Q&A?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Daniel. That was great. We do have a couple of questions in the chat here, so I'll pose those to you. We have a question here from Adelka. She's asking, does the Ashbourne A-level drama programme help to guide students who want to pursue a career in commercial screen acting, or is it mainly theatre-based?
The A-level itself is theatre-based, so you will not be doing any screen acting at all. So in terms of how much it will develop screen acting is 0. However, especially in England, which is very different to America, the majority of screen actors will have trained through theatre. And the reasons are, if you go straight into screen acting without theatre, you are losing that sense of having ownership and the ability to live that moment. Okay, because with screen acting, you can go again and again and again. Whereas really the best screen actors, and many directors have said this through the years, are the actors that have trained in theatre, because they pick things up quicker, because they know in the theatre world, you cannot retake. So getting into character is swifter, understanding aims and intentions is swifter, and it makes for a better all-round actor. If you look at kind of all the kind of famous actors that we know, and a lot of British actors, even young actors now, a lot of them would have trained at drama school.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. And thank you for that question, Adelka. I hope that answers things for you. Another question here from Mel. She's asking, are we to wear specific clothing for drama lessons, like in most rehearsals, i.e. black?
Yes, absolutely. Black is optional. Ideal would be blacks, which is what I'm wearing right now. This is what I would wear to all our lessons, because most lessons, especially in year 12, 90% of your lessons in year 12 will be practical. So I wear all blacks. If you don't have all blacks, I don't want you to tell your parents you need to go and buy a new wardrobe. That's not what I'm asking. What I will ask of you is that it's sports attire and that it's comfortable. Things that I don't want you to be wearing are any low-cut tops, any denim, any skirts. Make sure there are no jewelry on your person when we're doing practical work, and hair is tied back. So ideally, blacks, yes. However, as long as it's practical attire, leggings, jogging bottoms, t-shirts, and it's loose fitting, I'm happy with that. But I've always done it. I always wear all blacks.
Okay, thanks for that, Daniel, and thank you for that question, Mel. We've got a question here from Laura asking what is involved with the application process for drama A level at Ashbourne. I think I'll explain the sort of logistical side of things, and then I'll pass to you, Daniel. So essentially, it's the same, Laura, for any other subject. The only additional part is that we would ask for you to do a drama audition, which I think Daniel can explain about what we asked for in terms of the audition.
Yes, so the audition is, at the moment, it will be a video recording rather than a face-to-face audition, but it will be a 1 to 2 minute monologue from a play text, not a song from a musical turned into words, and not a piece of text from a film or TV program. It must be from a play text. You must know the context of the character and the scene and what's going on, and have an understanding of the play. Okay, so where the character fits in the play and what's going on. Ideally, you want to choose a character that's age appropriate and gender appropriate. But again, that I'm not too fussed. If you want to show me a male Nora or a female Hamlet, that's absolutely fine. You know, be creative. In terms of time period, it can be modern or it can be classical. That's completely up to you. But it's a 1 to 2 minute monologue from a play text, and it must be from a play text that you have read and understood the character and the context of what's going on.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. I hope that answers your question, Laura. Another question here from Adelka, Daniel. Does Ashbourne provide guidance with applying for drama schools and universities beyond college?
Yes, I am currently speaking with a lot of my Year 12 students about drama schools and universities that do drama. I will be honest with you, Ashbourne itself is not going to promote drama schools as much as other places will, because Ashbourne is an academic college. Okay, so their advice as a college is much more through the academic side. Okay, that is how it is. That's Ashbourne. It is an academic college. However, personally, I would be happy to discuss drama school options. But Ashbourne itself is much more of an academic college than a preparation for drama school. So if you are really, really, really interested in drama school and that's the only thing, Ashbourne may or it may not be the right place because it is more academic. But that's right, isn't it, Chris? We would say.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think Ashbourne's main approach is getting students into the top UK universities. That's what we're aiming to do. But as Daniel says, I'm sure that if you're looking to study, you know, A-level drama alongside a couple of other A-level subjects, I'm sure Daniel would provide support for you to apply to a drama school. And we would in no way restrict you from doing that if that's what you wanted to do. We very much just want to support students in what they want to do. So it's absolutely, you know, an option if you're looking at that. Thanks, Daniel, and thanks, Adelka. Oh, she's got another question here. Does the dress code for drama lessons have to be worn for the whole school day?
No, a lot of our students will get changed before the lesson and then after lesson, and I will give students kind of like a 10-minute. The way that Ashbourne works is lessons are, oh goodness, an hour and 50 minutes. So you have, if my maths is right, this could go wrong. 50 minutes, a 10-minute break, and then another 50 minutes. That might be wrong. Yeah, that is right. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
However, when we do practical lessons, I don't have a mid-break simply because it kills the flow of the practical work. So we will finish 10 minutes early at the end. So our lessons are an hour and 40, but no mid-break. So that last 10 minutes gives students time to get changed back into regular attire. So that's what 99.9% of my students do.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. A question here from Ewan. He's asking, how many hours a week do students get for drama?
So they get 3 lessons a week, which equates to just under 4 hours. So 3 lessons a week.
6 hours technically, wouldn't it be?
6 hours, yeah. Thank you. There's also drama club. Again, whether this will happen from September, I don't know, but it does happen from January. Drama club is Tuesdays from 6 till 8 p.m. It is late. In that time, students have an extra rehearsal for their devised piece. Okay, and it's a really valuable extra rehearsal. So there is that extra 2 hours that you do get. You only get that in the first and the second term. You don't get that after Easter. We stopped that after Easter because most of the practical work that needs performance exams is done. So you get 6 hours plus drama club. Plus, you know, I have students every year that will say, we need to rehearse our devise Thursday evening because that's the only time everyone can do. Can we do 6 till 8? Or you don't, we've seen your timetable because I leave it in the room. We know you're not teaching from 4 till 6 and the room's free from 4 till 6. Can you book it out and can we rehearse then? So although it's 6 hours, it's always more. And the weekends before performance exams, especially, I always book the weekends that we rehearse. So I'll have one group in on a Saturday, one group in on a Sunday. So it is 6 hours of teaching time in timetable, but it's always more because that's the nature of the performing arts.
Yeah, so just to add to that, Ewan, with all subjects at Ashbourne, students will get 6 hours a week. But as Daniel says, you know, you're looking to go above and beyond that. You're going to be required to be available for things like rehearsals and things like that. So just to make that clear, thanks, Daniel, and thank you for that, Ewan. Question here from Mel, Daniel, is the course primarily centered around acting, and would we cover things like directing?
Yes, both. You'll start off by doing mostly acting, and especially in the first half term, simply because I can get a gauge of students' history and how much experience they have. But very much it's a 50-50 in terms of acting and directing. With your device, you direct yourselves. And with the study of both Hedda Gabler and Metamorphosis, you will have opportunities to direct each other to show your vision. Okay, so there's all, and again, for plays like Othello and Blasted, if that's the play that I choose for you to look at, you will have to come up with your own interpretation where you direct yourself. So it is a good balance between acting and directing. We do talk through design, and there are questions on design. However, our space is limited. So in terms of lighting and sound and costume and set design, it's more theoretical discussion rather than practical application. Sadly, that is just the nature of the facilities that we have. But in terms of acting and directing, you will definitely get a chance to do both.
Great, thanks for that, Daniel. Thanks for the question, Mel. Just building on that, Daniel, I know often when we do the practicals at Ashbourne, we're making use of sort of professional theatre spaces around London. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that and sort of the benefits that will give A-level students.
Yeah, absolutely. So because we don't have a performance space at Ashbourne because it's a very small building and our room is very small, which means the maximum class size you'll probably be in is about an 8 maximum. Okay, and that was my 13s last year, which is really good, which means it's much more personalized learning. Because we don't have a performance space, at the beginning when I first arrived at Ashbourne, I thought this was a travesty and was going to be really horrible and awful. Actually, it's really great. Because in the professional world, you won't get to the theatre you're performing in until you do your dress and tech, which could be 2 to 1 days before you go up live. Most of the time, you'll be in rehearsal spaces. Now, if any of you have been lucky enough to use any rehearsal spaces with the National Theatre, which is right next to the Old Vic, or at the Old Vic, or at the Young Vic, the rehearsal spaces sometimes are kind of empty office rooms, and that's where they rehearse. And that's the same with Ashbourne. We use kind of like an empty classroom, carpeted classroom. What that does mean, though, is when we go to theatres to perform, I am very careful to choose professional theatres and work with professional tech team that ensure our shows are lit and structured as professional as they can. Whereas if you go to kind of other schools that have everything in-house, there is often this, oh, well, that light's broken because so-and-so broke it in the last show. We don't have the finances to fix that. You don't have any of that, because we are using professional spaces that are constantly ensuring their equipment is up to date, up to scratch, and working perfectly. 2 years ago, I used a theatre called the Courtyard in Shoreditch. Last year, we used LAMDA, and ideally, hopefully, touch wood, we are going to use LAMDA again. What that also gives you an opportunity is for a couple of days to live the life of a drama student, and you get to have a little mooch around because you get a kind of card to say you're allowed in the building, and you can just be a bit nosy at what the kind of lessons, you can't go into the lessons, but you can look through the window at some of the classes. So it's a really nice experience. Plus you have a couple of days off site from Ashbourne, so it feels a lot more professional, and that's really what I strive with, making everything practically applicable to the professional world, obviously, as well as really focusing on getting you the best grades for A-level.
Okay, great. Thanks, Daniel. There aren't any other questions in the chat at the moment, so we'll be hanging around until 6 o'clock. So if anyone has any further questions, let us know. But I did want to ask you, Daniel, you mentioned about how I think it was some of your year 12s last year that were really successful with one of their devised pieces. So I don't know if you could talk about what it was that you felt that meant that they were so successful. What was it that they did well? And what would you advise for any kind of future drama students who are looking to sort of emulate that kind of success?
I think the two things that made it very successful was, firstly, when we went to the Tate Britain, for the students to choose the stimulus and the kind of the muse for their devised, and I let them wander off and find artwork that inspired them. The piece had nothing to do with the artwork, it's just to get creative ideas flowing. And for the one group in particular, they really chose the most obscure and interesting and thought-provoking pieces of artwork, not the kind of the basic stuff. Not all of them may have really enjoyed it in terms of they thought it was high quality art, and some actually disliked the art in terms of their view on it. But what they did enjoy was the emotions that sparked from it. So when we do go to art galleries in order to find your stimulus, or you know, depending on how things pan out in January, it might be that we just do a wander around Kensington and look at architecture. That you find stuff that has a real kind of innate response that comes from it, because that's the stuff that creates the passion. Secondly, for the students, it's that want and desire to learn about theatre. The students watched so much theatre and thought about it and reflected on it and made notes on it, about what they liked about the ideas, what ideas really worked, what ideas didn't work, why the ideas that worked really worked, and what was it about them that did, and how they could manipulate the ideas to make them into their own. So I think for any student doing devising work especially, you have to be aware of what's going on in the professional world, and what people are doing, and whether you want to go with the ideas, not kind of verbatim word for word, but contribute to the ideas that exist, or perhaps, and I had this 2 years ago, go utterly against the ideas. I had a piece 2 years ago that was a really clever piece about anti-original, and how the artistic theatrical world is non-original anymore because people are just kind of recycling old ideas. So I think it's knowing what goes on in the world of theatre, knowing the practitioners, reading books on theatre. As I say, we do a lot of theatre trips, more than I've been able to do in any other place, because Ashbourne lets me, and it has a real positive benefit on the quality of work. The practitioners we look at are not your bog standard regular practitioners. We look at really obscure practitioners to give students the best chance of finding a practitioner to influence them that's going to excite them and inspire them.
Great, fantastic. Okay, I think that's it for today with all of the virtual Open Week sessions. Thanks very much for that, Daniel. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So, and what I would say just before we go, as ever, if you would like to answer or ask any further questions or book any sort of follow-up meetings with any of the staff that you've seen give webinars this week, please do contact us. I would be very happy to set that up. Okay, great. So thanks again, Daniel, for that. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Stay safe.